So I think there's no secret in a way that for you to basically serve a larger corporations, then you definitely need to have a very good track records. Track records could be both way. I think one thing, the technical capabilities, that one is definitely, it's not the overnight effort. In a way, you have to spend really a lot of your time in order to build out the technical capabilities, a lot of experience, building different kind of projects and basically solving different kind of problems. And that's basically the practical experience. That's something that you cannot really mock or lie. I think that's very important, the technical foundations, especially for a professional service like us.
Welcome to the iSearch podcast. Today we have Tan Aik Keong, or AK, the CEO of Agmo Holdings Berhad, on the show. So in this episode, we'll talk about the story of Agmo Holdings Berhad, how they went from startup to IPO in Malaysia. So welcome to the show, AK.
Hi, thanks for having me, Benjamin.
All right. So I'm just curious to know, how did the idea of starting Agmo Studio came to mind?
Yeah, I think first thing, let me explain what does Agmo means. Agmo means agile and mobile. So it started back to January 2012. And what we do in Agmo are basically building mobile solution in an agile way. That's how the names of Agmo comes from. And when we first started, basically, MyEG invested in us as we are one of the winner in the MyEG Meta Pitch competition, which was a TV reality shows, something like the Dragon Dance, basically entrepreneurs reality shows. So we were one of the winners out of about 300-400 businesses, as far as I can recall. So that's how we get started. So I think why we started that is because we feel like in iPhone and Android basically is a new technologies that brings everyone back to the same starting line. Imagine if I started another Web2 companies, let's say a portal, marketplace, e-commerce, and so on. So I think it would be very difficult because people have been started .com era since the age of 1998 and so on. So, but mobile is basically a brand new opportunity. It's a blue options that we in Malaysia, we can basically start at the same time as the rest of the countries. And the good thing about building apps in the App Store and Google Play, we get the opportunity for the global distributions. So hence, we think we should really capitalize and leverage on the opportunities to start the companies. And basically, we won the competitions by MyEG. So and that time, basically, there are 3 winners, and all of them are tech companies as well. So I think that's timing is good for a mobile-based startup. Yeah, that's how we get started.
It's something like a Shark Tank kind of show, right?
Yeah, it's a Shark Tank, yes.
Okay. So they invest a certain fund, a certain amount in exchange for some equity in your company.
Yeah, that was kind of like the pre-seed funds. So they invested 300,000 to us with the post-money valuation of 1 million. So in a way, 30% with 300,000.
So fast forward today, in 2024 or even next year, 2025, is there still this type of Shark Tank kind of thing by MyEG or other big companies, especially for, let's say, aspiring entrepreneurs that they have a big idea but they want to showcase to the judges?
So MyEG, they have done 3 seasons as far as I know. So I think the last season was about 2014 or 15. So after that, they didn't continue that. Maybe they have a bigger focus to invest in those startups, focus more on AI, VR, and those a lot from the China's and so on. But then in Malaysia, there are other opportunities for the startups. For example, there is this NISIA accelerators. They are appointed by my startup basically to run the accelerators, providing the bootcamps, programs, mentorships, and with the demo days, then the winner might also get opportunities to be invested by the angels. At the same time, there are also things like Bingo Show. Bingo Show is started by a group of the these companies in a way that is a Bingo Show is by FinSource. So they are basically the IPO consultant. Then they gather 5 public listed companies and those interested SMEs, they can actually participate and they can get the opportunity to get the investment from the listed companies, or it could be also an M&A opportunity as well. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So let's go back to 2012, in the early days of Agmo. How did you get your first few clients, especially at the start, right, when people don't trust you yet?
actually when we first started, we focused on the B2C business. We built a applications called Masatu. It's a social networking application based on location-based and augmented realities features. But then it's very, very difficult to move. I mean, we have users, but then the traction is not sufficient enough for us to generate revenues. I mean, just at the early day of the Facebook, they really have to get the substantial users before they can actually monetize it. So, and with that, basically, I think in Malaysia, it's relatively difficult to start a social networking B2C applications. So it pivot into a mobile software powerhouse in a way that we provide mobile solutions to the clients. Of course, we started with some of the SME and so on. So, but it's a chicken and egg. So the SME wouldn't become your customer if you don't have any portfolios. So what we do is basically we take the initiative to invest times to build a few localized contents, things related to Malaysia LRT, Malaysia restaurants, and so on. Back then, the App Store and Play Store is really a very green field in a way that you can just publish something and Malaysians users are hunger for contents in a way that the App Store and Play Store, they also prioritize local contents. They get a lot of tractions. Our apps get like 50, 100,000 of downloads within a month. So with that, we build our portfolios and that it creates some sort of a trustworthiness to the very first few clients as well. Yeah.
So you build your own app so that is like your own portfolio that you can like show to client like how's your work like, so they can download the apps and also use it and get a feel of how's your quality lah.
Yeah, to create some confidence.
Okay, so fast forward a couple of years and now you have served many SMEs, you have done many apps already. Then now it's like the evolve stage where how do you evolve to serve like larger companies? Because this is a stage where a lot of entrepreneurs struggle to like break through, meaning that a lot of entrepreneurs will just serve the SME clients because it's hard to like serve the bigger clients. So how can entrepreneurs evolve from the SME stage to like the bigger companies?
Yeah, so today's Agmo, we are serving 11 Fortune 500 companies, some of the MNC, GLC, and a lot in the public listed space as well. So I think there's no secret in a way that for you to basically serve a larger corporations, then you definitely need to have a very good track records. Track records could be both ways. I think one thing, the technical capabilities, that one is definitely, it's not the overnight effort. In a way, you have to spend really a lot of your time in order to build out the technical capabilities, a lot of experience building different kind of projects and basically solving different kind of problems. And that's basically the practical experience. That's something that you cannot really mock or lie. I think that's very important, technical foundations, especially for professional service like us in the field. I think second one also on the track records in terms of companies' financial records. So of course for the corporates, they do want to work in the with vendors that basically have the financial risk. So it could be things that the vendor shut out in the next day after they awarded a contract. These are the things that they try to avoid. So that's why the financial capability is also very important. So it's very important for all the startups to maintain a good financial records, good cash flow, good P&Ls and things like that. But of course, number three are also about some of the certifications and partnerships. Because what differentiates you from others, it could be things related to whether you have some sort of certifications and so on. For example, at Agmo, we attained this triple ISO certification, 27001, 9001, and 20000-1. So I think that creates confidence in terms of that we have a more structured process and we put a lot of emphasis in terms of the information security management, quality management, and things like that. Last but not least, also some of the hackathons. I think that's on the early days that before we secure the first Fortune 500, and not the first, but one of the largest companies in Malaysia as our clients. I personally joined one of the hackathons, which is organized by one of the biggest banks in Malaysia. Then I won the hackathons, then it creates some confidence to these corporate clients. So that I think these are some of the credibilities that we have. But other than that, will be some of the system or apps that you build and is being featured by the medias and things like that can also help to bring some confidence for you to secure some of the corporate businesses. Yeah.
I think getting like the big corporate business in Malaysia is already very difficult, but yet Agmo managed to get like a certain Fortune 500 companies as your clients, right? So how do you market internationally?
At the moment, our revenue 80% from Malaysia, 20% from overseas. So these 20% overseas revenues are coming from Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, Vietnam, China, and some other countries. But currently we majority of us are based in Malaysia, despite we have a small setup in Singapore. But before if we set up that Singapore outfit, we already have a Singapore businesses. But a lot of them are basically could be word of mouth. For example, that we are serving Malaysia's MNC. At the same time, the projects deliver well, so they will recommend us to their counterparts in overseas. So that's basically how we scale without much marketing. We don't spend money in things like digital marketing and so on. So those are organic traffics coming from the market itself. Yeah.
So the key is to, like what you say, do good work, like to really train your staff to have the technical capabilities to really serve the client well, and then they will refer their friends, I mean the bigger companies and so on.
Yeah, these are important. Yeah.
Okay. So Agmo has been around for about 10 plus years. What is like the biggest challenge of running Agmo so far?
Yeah, in the early days of the Agmo, we focus a lot in terms of the providing professional services. But the problem with providing professional service is just like other professional industry, for example, law firm, audit firms, accounting firms, and so on, is a very professional, labor-intensive businesses. So it's difficult for you to scale when you don't have sufficient recurring revenues and things like that. So I think the growth formula is something very important. So then after 5 6 years, then we kind of like found our growth formulas to build some recurring revenues in a way that we also started to build some products. So we capitalize the experience that we have to build software for clients. Then we use best practices to build our own products. So for example, during a pandemic, we basically built one of the product called Wood to You. It's a blockchain power online annual general meeting platforms. So in a way that during the pandemic, we are one of the first to launch to the market. So within 2 years, basically we secure more than 130 public listed companies to use our platforms. So and it's a brand new product, so we haven't built this for other clients. But when we build that, basically it requires some of the elements, things like live streaming, things like blockchains. So we have that kind of technical knowledge when we build similar platform for our other clients. So I think a lot of things are basically when we keep on delivering things for the clients, then we accumulate some good technical expertise, then it can turn into our products that can basically generate recurring revenue for us. So I think I think one of the biggest challenges are really to find the right growth formulas to build out, so that with the growth formulas, one of the key recipe is definitely the recurring revenues. And these recurring revenues can be basically either generated by services and products. So I think that's the part that I think is very important for us to grow to where we are today.
Can I say that, like at the start, you're more focused on like a B2B kind of service, meaning that you provide the mobile apps delivery the mobile apps for the client. Then as you scale, now you're investing more on like building your own products. So you're serving more to like the B2C clients instead of the B2B. Of course, the B2B is still there, but you're trying
Yeah,
to balance.
to a certain extent, our product are mainly still serving B2B, but just that you can imagine one is building a bespoke digital solutions, another one is a software as a service. They build the software, then many clients use the same software. So we also have this e-invoicing solutions called Zhong e-invoice, which is subscribed by more than 40 different corporate clients that need to implement e-invoicing. But as we know that e-invoicing will be rolled out, which is the first phase already happened on 1st of August, second one on the 1st of January next year, and last one on 1st of July next year. So this is a big initiative from the government. And our software, basically this Zhong e-invoice is a middleware that can seamlessly integrate with different accounting system, ERP, POS, WMS, and e-commerce. So that basically as a middleware, that doesn't require for you to change your system, then you can seamlessly to comply with the LHDN requirements. So this is another example that basically we turn some of the expertise that we have built in the past into a product that helps our clients to solve the pain points, to make them comply to the requirements seamlessly.
Right, and at the same time, you get like what you say, the recurring revenue, because they have to subscribe to this software as a service, right? This SaaS.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, I think you will get a lot of sign-ups in June because Malaysia like to do things last minute, right? So July is like the deadline, and June probably people will start to find out more about e-invoicing and all those type of things lah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's like the era of like digital solutions and also AI. So with so many things to do, there's so many platforms, there's so many channels. What are some recommendations for entrepreneurs to like get started?
Yeah, I think be it whether it's digitalizations or AI transformations, I think what's important is really to identify your pain points. So whether your pain points are you want to increase your revenue via digital channels, or maybe you want to reduce manpowers by automating some of the processes, or maybe you want to create new offerings by using some of the like blockchain technologies or whatever you call that. So after you identify your objective or pain points, then you can start to basically understand your current landscape, what are your resources in terms of your people, in terms of your budgets and so on. So you can start to invest. I think first thing is have to invest in talking about talent itself. Let's say you want to adopt the AI technologies, then a lot of employees they might worry adopting AI will basically replace them, then become jobless and so on. So there need to be some sort of the cultures in a way to tell them AI doesn't replace you, AI complement you instead. Your AI will basically help humans to complete the routine tasks, the repetitive tasks, so that humans basically can focus on the high value jobs, for example, those related to creativity, innovations, and so on. So I think the basically cultivating the right mindset is very important. Then that's number one. Number two are basically also look into your current technology landscape, whether your process is still manual or automated, whether you have done the digitalizations in a way, are you still using a paper and pen? I think if you're still using paper and pen, then time to digitize it so that at least you have a digital records. So after your digital record, then maybe you want to automate some of the workflow process, then that's what we call the digitalizations or digital transformations. So after you have this, basically you need to study what kind of tools, what kind of frameworks do you need to use, whether you can buy it off the shelf or things like ERP, CRM, those are no-brainer, you just buy it off the shelf. Or maybe certain part is very proprietary or specific to your businesses, you can engage a software consultant helping you to implement that part of the solutions. Then this is number two. Then number three are basically in terms of the data. So I think data is very important moving forward. So, but data will only be there if you implement the digitization and digitalizations right. So with the data, basically you get a lot of insight in so that it knows better in terms of where is the gap. Then, of course, gap is one thing. Another thing is a return on investment. Because when you invest in AI transformation or digitalizations, you really want to know whether what you have invested actually yield the right return. So that's with the data, actually you can tell whether the investment makes sense or not, or whether the investment actually is overperformed than what you expect. So I think these are the things that to sum up, you start to identify your business objective. Second one, basically you invest in the people, invest in the tools, invest in the data. Then lastly, you need to have a framework to basically measuring the ROI so that you do a continuous improvements and adjustments.
Okay. So because there's so many tools out there, I think like what you say, the first step is to identify what is your own pain point first, because every business is like different, right? So once you identify your own pain point, then only you research on like what are tools or AI software that can help you to solve this problem lah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so this is an interesting question. So many entrepreneurs dream of an IPO, but very few get to do it. And you have done a successful IPO 2 years ago. So what is your advice for entrepreneurs who wish to one day go for IPO as well?
Yeah, I think what's important is to have the IPO mindset, especially when you even better if you, during the first day you started a business, you already have the IPO mindset. I think IPO mindset is first thing is to really understand your financial performance. Without going into IPO, I think you really need to have a very good financial performance. You show a good growth momentum. Then you understand your business, what's your gross profit margin, what's your net profit margins, and how do you optimize your profit margins. Then that's number one. You really need to have a very good sense in terms of your numbers. Then the second one are basically you need to really understand your competitive landscape in a way that when we go IPOs, we also need to go through processes to create our prospectus. We engage independent market research to study our industry, then we'll benchmark where we are compared to our competitors and so on. Then all that basically be more observant in terms of the, and I love the way it basically obsess about the competitions so that you basically knows what your competitors are doing. And competition is sometimes good. It creates positive momentums for you to push yourself further. Then that's number two, basically to understand more about competitive landscape. Then number three are basically in terms of the organization's structure process. So I mean, when we go public, there are a lot of things that we need to do, things like internal control and risk management, things related to legal due diligence, things related to the audits, and also PR, IR. There are just so many things. So if you run like a listed call from the day one, so you have a proper filings, then you have proper processes, everything regarding to your finance, HR, operations, marketing, and so on. Then of course, sometimes you need to have some framework to follow. So for what we do, basically, you can follow things like ISO. So ISO is International Standard Organizations, so that you at least you have some base there. So when you go to IPO, you don't have too much of gaps to close. So and lastly, of course, also related to the financial in a way that I think for most of SME, we don't really track too much in terms of numbers and so on. But being a listed companies, we need to do a quarterly report so that that's the time that we really have, in a way, need to be responsible to our shareholders because it is obligation for us to bring the maximized value to our shareholders. So likewise, when you are running your own businesses, although you might be the sole shareholders, but just imagine when you have thousands of the shareholders, then you really have to be responsible to ensure every quarters you have a look on the numbers. If let's say this quarters the revenue drops, then we really need to do a bit of the post-mortem why the revenue drops and how you can rectify this in the next quarter. Or it could be some sort of expenses increases, then how come it suddenly increase? These are the same questions when you are in the capital markets. The analysts and so on, they will ask you every quarters. So then just prepare yourself before you go for IPOs. Then you also do quarterly reviews to understand your numbers and so on. So I think these are all about the mentality and mindsets, basically to prepare yourself to be a public listed companies, even though you are not listed yet. Those are important.
I guess once you are listed, you need to comply with a lot more things versus when you are just a private SME, you got maybe more freedom to do things. Do you think that is like the case?
Yeah, that definitely. I think that's a good case in a way that because being a public listed companies, we need to protect the minority interests. So shareholders, despite they are retail investors, but we still need to protect their interests. So that's why there are a lot of corporate governance frameworks. Like for example, when you make decisions, then you need to go through your board of directors. And board of directors will have more independent directors and more non-executive directors than the executive directors. So that's basically the check and balance part. It's not like you're running your own companies, we make the full decisions. So I think that's related to governance are very, very important. Yeah.
Okay. So we're coming to the end of the podcast. So moving forward, what is like the future plans of Agmo?
Yeah. At most, our visions and missions, I think our mission first. I think our mission is very simple, but yet very important, is to use technology to make people's life better. So I think just to quote one of the examples, during a pandemic, we have a platform called Talk to Us that we are the only virtual health or SME partner in mind Sejahtera. So during a pandemic, we have been providing free consultation to more than 200,000 of Malaysians. So with that, of course, we don't make money because we are providing a platform. We connect healthcare professionals at one end, then with the COVID patients or maybe the riot at another end, so that we facilitate the daily consultations. I think this is one of the things that we are really making a lot of impact, especially during a pandemic, since remote is one of the main things during a pandemic. So so that's one thing, using technology to make people life better. But we want to amplify what we are doing, instead link back to our visions. In a way, our vision is to become the leading regional digital solution providers. Now we mainly 80% revenue still from Malaysia. Then we want to expand regionally, at least into Southeast Asia. So I think that's the part. And how are we going to get that is basically using our technology transformation roadmap. that we call it ABCDESS. A stand for AI. AI, of course, we have things like generative AI and so on. So these are one of the big focus they are focusing today in a way that generative AIs. Then followed by B is a blockchain. For blockchain, we have a joint venture with MyEG, so to build this national blockchain infrastructures known as Z-Trace, and also integrate with China national blockchain to facilitate a cross-border certificate of origin clearance. That's basically on the blockchain. Then C is basically the cloud modernizations. In a way, there are many data centers being built in Malaysia, huge investment from the big cloud providers, Microsoft, AWS, Oracle, Google, and so on. But data center is just like shopping mall, so they will basically need talents. The talents are basically applications which is built by us. So in a way that it could be an AI application, blockchain applications, enterprise applications, mobile applications, and these are the part that we will capitalize on the investment by the big cloud providers to build local data center. And with the local data center, it also solves a lot of concerns still related to the data residency policy, especially those from the financial services, healthcare, or government sectors. So I think that's basically on the C side, the cloud modernizations. And D are basically a digital ID. In Agmo, basically, we are appointed by the governments as a strategy integrators for digital ID. Digital ID is one thing is basically streamline the user experience because back then when you sign up for different application, you have different username and password. With this digital ID, you have a single sign-on to all these applications. Secondly, basically, it also streamline the onboarding process. Back then, basically, when you do, especially those banking telco app, you need to do eKYC. And the problem with eKYC is subject to many conditions. If the light condition is no good, then your KYC pass fail and things like that. Or maybe your face doesn't look like your IC, they also feel like KYC. So with that, basically, it will make the onboarding much more seamless and it's more secure because it's basically my digital ID being a product owned by a government is integrated with our Jabatan Pendaftaran Negara, the JPN. So I think all that basically is a good benefits. And we see that in Malaysia now there is less than 10 apps we already integrated with this My Digital ID. There are a lot of opportunities here. So that's number quite a D. And E are basically extended ready. Extended ready are some to call it is an umbrella term. So extended reality is also known as a XR. Then under it, basically, there are augmented realities, there are mixed reality, and there are the virtual realities. So mixed reality are what we are doing with the Apple Vision Pro. So early this year, basically, we also launched the first Apple Vision Pro content in Malaysia. We call it the My Memories in a way that basically user can use Apple Vision Pro to experience Malaysia traditions, things like gasing, congkat, wow, and so on. But of course, these are the things that we can also bring it further. Apple Vision Pro is very suitable for you to conduct remote training, remote diagnosis, and things like that. So that's basically E, and also S is basically the sustainability. Sustainability, and so one of our efforts are basically to launch the first electric vehicle super app known as the Agmo EV super app. That's basically an touch point aggregator that helps EV user to reduce the range anxiety. So as we know, I think a lot of Malaysians, they also worry about buying EV due to they feel like there is not sufficient EV charging stations on the road, highway, and things like that. So, but in order for Malaysia to achieve the net zero by 2050, one of the big agenda is really in terms of green mobility. The national goal is to achieve like 10 to 15% of total industry volume. In a way, the new car sales has to be EV. So in order to achieve that, I think we really need to have an ecosystem which make users to feel more confidence when they are driving EV. So in this Agmo EV super app, that basically we have functions to let users to locate the nearest charging stations, to plan for the route when they are traveling long distance, let's say from Johor to Penang, then also to make payment for the charge point operators. Then on the other hand, apart from Agmo EV, we also have a joint venture with Solar West. They are one of the largest solar companies in Malaysia. So in terms of collaboration, apart from EV, we are also basically have this residential solar system that basically helps Malaysians to adopt home solar more easily. Then we also have that REC platform, Renewable Energy Certificates platforms, that basically helping corporates to offset their Scope 1 emissions using our platforms. So these are another things. And last but not least, the last S is basically super apps. Agmo, we partner with Alibaba Cloud to bring their state-of-the-art super app platforms, which is powering their platform like Taobao's, Alipay, and so on, into Malaysia. So that in Malaysia, basically, we help governments to basically turn their platform into a super app. The differentiation between a super app and a normal app, obviously, from technical perspective, super app, we have a framework to allow third party to build mini programs, then they can basically sit in the super app. Just imagine Touch and Go. So Touch and Go's, you can basically, for example, buy credit report. So you buy credit report, you don't have to do KYC again because you have already done the KYC in the Touch and Go app. So after you go in, then you can use Touch and Go credit balance to make payment. So these are the seamless integrations when we have a super app framework. But fundamentally, to achieve this, you need a super app framework. So this Alibaba super app framework is something like Touch and Go super app framework, but of course not Touch and Go. Touch and Go, they have their own proprietary super app frameworks, so that we can use the same technology, empower the super app owner, could be governments, property developers, telcos, to create their own super ecosystems. Yeah, that's about what we are heading in the futures. Yeah.
Right. I mean, interesting plans. I think so. This framework it will be applied to Malaysia and also your like a regional, like the other countries as well, right? Right. This framework that you come up with.
Yeah, so this framework is definitely very scalable in a way that the solution that I have been describing is not only Malaysia's. AI is for everyone and everywhere, but blockchains that we first built is basically a G2G use cases with China's governments. Then in terms of digital ID, is very localized to Malaysia. Then of course things related to sustainability, those are the global agendas in a way, ESGs, carbon emission reductions, all that is a global agenda. Yeah.
Okay, great. So thanks AK for coming onto the show. Check out Agmo Studio down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Right. Thank you, Benjamin.